If you clicked on this video, chances are you're a pretty intelligent guy and you're probably quite self-aware as well. You're at least, above average intelligence, but this sort of comes with its own drawbacks, right? You probably feel like your mind sometimes goes a little bit too quickly, right? Your thoughts, your train of thoughts are so fast and you're sort of almost struggling to catch up with yourself and how fast your mind can go, right? Someone might ask you what you're thinking about and to walk them through everything that you've just thought of in the last 30 seconds would be too much for them and too tiring that you just you say, oh, nothing, right? I'm going to describe you a little bit more right now. You probably feel like you're not really at the helm, fundamentally. You're not really in control of your mind. Maybe sometimes you feel like you're using your mind to do things, like to focus on your work and whatever, but other times you might even feel like your mind uses you. When you feel upset about something, you kind of just accept that that's how you're going to feel and that those negative thought patterns that you have are going to continue until they're simply done with you. And then you are released from this state of possession by this emotion. And maybe you sort of you just think that there's no choice, right? There's no what alternative is there to just being constantly identified with my thoughts. My thoughts are me, I am my thoughts. When I start thinking down this train of thought, I just need to follow it until the end. I have to, right? I have to think this entire thought through all the way until its logical conclusion, wherever that may be, and if I can even get to it. And that's just my life. My brain just goes at 1,000 miles an hour. I have no choice, right? Now, I want to say that there's a version of you that exists, let's say in a parallel universe, that has a choice in the matter. He actually has a say. When his brain starts this negative thought pattern and starts to do this spiral, he sort of abstracts himself out and he looks at it and says, okay, so we're going to think about this again, are we? All right, do I want to think about this right now? Okay, I know where this is going to lead me. I've been down that road. I know that me thinking this thing is going to make me think of this next thing, and it's going to make me feel fearful about this other thing, and I know where it ends. Do I want to go there right now? I'm at work. I'm trying to focus right now. I'm trying to be productive. Do I want to do this now? No, I don't. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Cool. And then he just lets the thought pass, and then he carries on with his work. That version of you does exist. The version of you that is in control, that is using his mind and not being used by it. Now that sounds crazy and might sound like a fucking superpower, and it is, frankly, it is. When I first was introduced to the concept that I'm about to teach you in this video, it was introduced to me by a trusted individual who told me, Chris, there's nothing like this out there. I feel like I have wall hacks in real life. Like wall hacks in video games where, you basically, you put a cheat code into the game and then you can see through the walls. That's basically how he described it to me. He said, it's like having IRL wall hacks. And I really trust this guy. So he told me that and I thought, fuck, I have to do this. And if you can make it to the end of this video, you could have IRL fucking wall hacks, okay? Once I started picking up this skill, I understood exactly what that guy meant when he said it was like wall hacks, because it really is. So if you can make it to the end of this video, you can have this superpower to see through the bullshit of your own fucking mind. And this is ultimately going to unlock just basically everything that you care about in your life, right? It allows you to be a productivity monster, right? Have insane levels of focus. Look, let's be honest, right now, if I told you to focus on your own breath for 60 seconds, you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't make it 7 seconds focusing on your own breath, maybe. Okay, maybe if you have a little bit of training of your mind, you might make it 30 seconds, but you probably couldn't focus on your own breath for 60 seconds. So let's be real, right? You don't have the focus that is required for you to get to your goals, financial or business otherwise, right? And not just that, not just productivity and focus, but your presence in your relationships, right? Imagine if you could make your woman and your family feel so loved and centered in the amount of presence that you give them when you're there. Right? They actually feel like any time that they spend with you is such quality time because you're fully there with them. Right? Imagine if that could be the case, because it can be, right? When you have mastered this superpower. And before we even get into this, you and I both know that there are a few of these little superpowers that you can develop for yourself to set you apart from the average man. Right? Like, we know this. If you just look at the disparity and inequality in outcomes that you can see between really powerful and successful men and just the average male whose life isn't really going anywhere, you know that this man, he knows something and he has skills and he's developed these things that most people don't have, right? And so I actually help my community to unlock these parts of their potential. It's the top link in the description. You can consider joining that community if you want to be around like-minded men who are unlocking these superpowers for themselves. The superpower in question is the skill of mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is your ability to be in control of your thoughts and of your feelings, and to basically have conscious awareness of where your focus and your attention is being placed in each moment. And as a result, be able to decide that consciously, right? And not just have that be governed by your unconscious mechanisms in your brain, which is like 90% of your cognition is actually unconscious. But mindfulness is just doing our best to promote some of those things into our conscious brain so that we actually have some control over what we're focusing on and what we're paying attention to, right? Because I'm sure you have the experience plenty of times where you're trying to focus on one thing, but your brain simply isn't cooperating with you. It wants to think about something else. It wants to think about this conversation that you had with your parents this other day and this thing that pissed you off about this, what this girl said, and then this other thing. Like, your brain is unconsciously doing all of that, right? So we want to make as much of this conscious as possible and just notice these things that are arising in our conscious mind, right? So that we can sort of decide if we want to just observe a thought and let it pass versus if we want to really entertain a train of thought and think about it. So you can immediately see why mastering mindfulness can literally 10x probably your focus and your productivity and your work output. Because if you can practice the skill of being present, right? And of not being identified with your thoughts, right? Every time you have a thought come up or a feeling come up, you just observe that as something that arises in your consciousness, right? It's just an appearance, an object that's arising at the moment in your consciousness. And if you can just notice that and let it pass, then you can avoid almost any distraction, right? You can simply choose to stay focused on what you're doing in the present, whether that's reading a book, whether that's a work task that you're doing, right? I'm sure a lot of you will have the experience of reading 3 lines in a book and then your brain just goes elsewhere. And then you're trapped in a thought for 30 seconds or something, and then you snap out of it, and it's almost like waking up from a dream, right? You snap out of it and you're like, oh, fuck. And then you sort of realize, oh, okay, wait, I'm kind of lost in this book now. And then you need to read the 3 lines again. And you just struggle to even get through this book because you're just blocked. You're cock blocked by your own fucking mind. You just keep falling into the next thought and then the next thought and the next one, right? So if you can start to develop the skill of noticing when you're lost in thought and coming back to what you're doing in the present, and if you train up that muscle, right? Think about it like a muscle, right? You're getting repetitions. Every time you notice that you're lost in thought, every time you're trapped in an emotion, in a feeling, and that you can just abstract yourself out of it, that's like getting 1 repetition, right? It's like, okay, good. I'm training my mind now to consciously pick up what I'm doing and consciously direct this spotlight of attention, okay? Because you can think of your consciousness in general, the area in which all of these sensations and thoughts and feelings can arise. You can think about that like a huge floodlight, okay? So it's a floodlight that just colors everything that can potentially come up, and your attention, your focus is like a spotlight that can be directed within that floodlight, right? Now, right now, your spotlight is just going wherever the fuck it wants to go, right? It's just unconsciously directed. Okay, here we're gonna work for a little bit. Okay, but now this notification popped up on my phone and now I'm gonna be thinking about this. And then now, I realize I need to go and like take out the laundry and right? It's just unconsciously directed, and you just follow where the spotlight goes. But the more you can be mindful, the more you can now get control of this spotlight and point it where you want it to point. And the moment it starts to veer a little bit, you go, no, we're doing this. And then it goes here, and you go, no, where are we going? No, I don't want to go there. We're focusing on this. And you can just direct that spotlight, right? So that's where it comes in to obviously massively improve your focus and your productivity. And I can't overstate the effect that this skill actually has on your relationships, right? In my first ever romantic relationship, right, I was 15, 16, right? I was with this girl for maybe 2.5 years, actually, which at that age, it's a pretty long time, right? But I mean, what did I know back then? I didn't know shit. I didn't know how to notice when I was being controlled by, let's say, fearful thoughts, right? Or insecure thoughts. So what happened? I ended up, that governed my actions, and that those insecure thoughts and feelings, they would control, right, my spotlight of attention so frequently in that relationship that I practically, or me and my partner, because we both had this problem, we practically destroyed the relationship just out of acting from a place of fear, right? Of, oh well, like what if my girlfriend's gonna like talk to some guy, and then she's gonna like catch feelings for this guy, and then she's gonna leave me, and then I'm afraid that I'm gonna be like abandoned, and that's gonna prove that, you know, I'm not worth being loved, and all these kind of things. Like, okay, we're getting a bit like psychologically deep here, but I came at the relationship many times from a place of such fear. I would create scenarios in my head that were really just fabricated, right? Just tailored to specifically what I was exactly afraid of. And I would tailor these scenarios in my head of, you know, my girl leaving me for some guy on this and that and that. And that fear controlled my relationship so much, right? To the point where I was a very controlling and, you know, almost manipulative boyfriend, right, in this relationship. And so that was a whole bunch of unnecessary suffering that I went through as a consequence of simply not knowing that there was an alternative, right? That there was an alternative to just being possessed by fear constantly and treating another person, like having our interpersonal relationship and communication and all of that just colored with my own fears and insecurities that I was imposing, right? I didn't know that there was another way. Because every time that I would get a thought that was really scary and fearful, I would follow that thought, and I would follow all of the negative emotions that would color that whole train of thought, and just sets the stage for keeping that thought pattern active, right? Because you have a negative thought, and then you have some negative feelings that come with that, and that sets the stage to keep the negative thoughts active. And so it just cycles and cycles and cycles. And so that destroyed, right, this relationship that I had, and it's caused a lot of unnecessary suffering just throughout my life, right? Not being able to abstract myself out and ask myself, is this really, well, one, am I even making contact with reality at this point? Or am I just spinning a web of needless suffering in my own mind? That's a good question to ask yourself. Am I making contact with the present moment, with reality, right? And the next thing is, do I need to think this thought right now? Do I want to step on this train? Okay, imagine a thought pattern like a train, which it's going to a destination, right? And you're at the train station. For most of my life, I didn't know that there was a choice. I would just see the train come and step onto the train. And I would go wherever that train was leading, even if it was going to an absolute fucking train wreck. I didn't know that I had a choice, right? Because I didn't understand mindfulness. Now, I'm at the train station. I can see the train come and the doors open. And what I do now is I look at the signs on the train. Okay, what does this train look like? Where does it look like it's going? Oh, I know where it's going. I've been there before. I didn't like where that went. I'm not going to step on this train. Okay, that's one line of defense. Line of defense number 2 if you don't manage to do this, which is fun, which is, it's a skill, right? We have to build this. But line of defense number 2 is the train comes, you step on the train unknowingly. You're on the train on the way to the fucking train wreck, and then because you have mindfulness, you kind of snap, like you wake from this dream and you notice, oh fuck, oh, I'm on this train. What does this train look like? Where does it look like it's going? Oh, I know where it's going. Fuck, I don't want to get there. You get off at the next stop, right? You basically say, nope, I've been on this train before. I recognize it. I don't want to go there. And you can step off the train. That's line of defense number 2, right? So again, most people are unaware simply that this is even an option, right? Truly, I spent most of my life unaware that this was an option. I only started meditating, doing mindfulness meditation in 2021. Right, so I spent 21 years of my life. Okay, well, I was a kid for a lot of that, but you get the point. I was unaware and just unconscious that I had a choice in the matter. The last reason, and the deepest and most important reason why you should be developing the skill of mindfulness and why this is actually a superpower, is because, and this is just what I believe, right? Your enjoyment of life is heavily constrained by your ability to be in the present moment. Okay, because the past, for example, the past is just a memory. It is just thoughts arising in the present moment. It's just memories that arise now. The future is just anticipated, right? It's just more thoughts arising in your brain right now, in the present. And this is true at every moment of your existence. When the future arrives, the future will just be another present moment. It is just one present moment to the next, to the next, to the next. So experientially, the reality of your life is now. It is the present moment. And if you are not someone who can actually be here and find fulfillment here, then what makes you think that you are going to find fulfillment behind whatever goal that you've set, whatever hill that you're climbing at the moment? Right? The reality is that you've probably already achieved a goal that you said self-admittedly would make you happy. Just think about what you've achieved in the last year or so. You've probably already achieved something that you 1 year ago thought was going to make you happy. All right. So the reality is that you will keep shifting the goalposts, and you will just keep pushing back. It's like these goals and aspirations that we have, they're fucking important, don't get me wrong, but it's misguided to believe that you can just stash away, hide away all of your happiness and fulfillment behind these goals and aspirations, because they have this mirage-like quality. You just never really get there. You keep going and you keep going, and it just keeps moving away from you. So if you can't find happiness and fulfillment in this present moment, then again, what makes you think that, granted that you've already achieved something that you said was going to make you happy, and you probably aren't, right? You probably achieved it, you just went, oh, well, okay, I just climbed this hill, but like, look at that hill over there, that I need to climb that next. And so you get this little fleeting, maybe moment of satisfaction when you climb the hill, but then immediately you set your eyes on the bigger mountain that's in front of you, and now you need to climb that. So again, what makes you think that your happiness and fulfillment that you're chasing and your enjoyment of life is hidden behind the attainment of that goal? Now, again, I don't want to give you the, misconception that I'm saying that, oh, well, goals and all this kind of thing aren't important. No. And it's true that your enjoyment of life can be multiplied by lots of things that you hope to achieve, right? Starting a family, let's say, or becoming wealthy. It's true that that can multiply and add many ways in which you can enjoy the world and enjoy your experience of it, right? But again, that is constrained by your ability to find that enjoyment in the present moment. Because if you can't find it here in this present moment, you're not going to find it in that present moment, because you are simply not the kind of person who has trained his ability to find it in the present. You are still thinking that you're going to find it in the future. And if that's how you've trained your mind, then you will never enjoy any of it. Really, think about this. Okay, it's as if you're in a casino, okay, and you enter the casino with a cash out limit. You can only cash out $100, right? You don't know that you have this cash out limit. It's just there, right? And you go into the casino and you do like super well at poker. You make a fuck ton of, like, your chips on the table, your chips are stacked so high, right? This is like achieving all of the things that you're trying to achieve in your life, right? You're in there, you're in the casino of life, and you're making bank on paper, right? You're stacking up chips. People look at you across the poker table, and you have mountains of chips, millions and millions of dollars. And then when it's time to cash out, all of those millions get funneled into this cash out limit that you have of $100. And so it didn't matter how much of that you stacked up, because your ability to cash out all of that enjoyment was still constrained by this $100 limit that you didn't even know you had. So it's kind of like that. And mindfulness is like taking that cash out limit and increasing it, so that all of the chips that you stack up in the casino of life, you can actually be there to enjoy it. When something beautiful is happening in the present moment, you can actually just be there. You're not subtly sort of looking over its shoulder and trying to anticipate what's going to come next, right? When you make your first million, maybe you can actually be there and be happy for it. Maybe you can actually celebrate it a little bit, instead of thinking of the 10 million that you now need to make, right? Maybe at the birth of your child, instead of thinking of all of the things that are going to come from it, and all of the, aftercare that you're going to have to, like, take care of your wife, and all these things, and all these next stressors that you're going to have to face, maybe you could actually just be there for the birth of your child, and see that for the beautiful moment that it is. So you can, again, think about this like a business, okay? Businesses have constraints. And you can increase the width of a pipe, right? You can increase the width of it over here, but if the width of the pipe here is still like this, the flow through the pipe is still going to be constrained to this. And you can extend this one as much as you want. You can make this part as big as it can be, right? Achieving all the things that you're trying to achieve, but you're still constrained by your ability to enjoy and actually be in the present moment. So I know this is difficult to hear, but as long as you keep hiding your happiness and fulfillment behind the attainment of some future goal that you have, you are going to keep suffering from the when-then fallacy. When I get this, then I will be happy, right? You're just going to keep suffering from that, right? Because you aren't the kind of person who knows how to locate fulfillment in the present. You only know how to see it as something that is in the future. You're going to keep thinking that you need to solve this problem to be happy. You need to solve this problem to finally be fulfilled, and finally you can rest or be happy and enjoy the moment. As long as you think it's behind the solving of a problem, you're screwed, because life is the continual process of solving problems. The problems that you have right now, yes, they are not going to be the same problems that you have in the future, okay? Once you've solved the problem of money, okay, once you've solved the money problem, you're not going to have that problem anymore. But guess what? You're just going to have a new set of problems that replaces the old set. Okay, so if you have, let's say, a stack of 30 problems right now, what they are now, it's not going to be the same 30 problems 20 years from now. And then that 30 is not going to be the same set of problems 40 years from now. It's not. But you are still going to have a set of problems to deal with. You're never going to reach this state of problemless bliss, and then, and I can finally just be blissfully happy, right? That's a fallacy. So as long as you're hiding your fulfillment behind the solving of these problems, you simply will never get there, because your life will never you'll never not have problems to solve, right? But it is not the fleeting moment of satisfaction that you get from solving a problem where your happiness lies or your fulfillment lies. It is in the state of mind in which you are solving your problems is where the quality of your life and the quality of your experience comes from. It's not the solving of the problems, but it is the state of mind in which you solve them, which is accessible to you in every moment. And as a matter of fact, it's only ever accessible through the present moment, because that's all that you ever have. One of the fastest ways to actually locate fulfillment or happiness in the present moment is gratitude. Okay? Recognize something. You are right now, you are one phone call away from realizing that everything that you are fucking worrying about today is irrelevant. One phone call, okay? One ring of the phone which you pick up and it's a paramedic who's told you that your brother or your sister or your mother, your father has just been in a terrible car accident. They're on the way to the hospital and you need to be there immediately. You get that one phone call and every little thing that you were thinking about this entire day immediately just becomes petty. You immediately realize that none of it was actually important, right? And you know that this moment is coming. Okay, if you're not going to get this phone call tomorrow, if you're not going to get it next month, next year, there's going to come a point in your life, even if it's 50, 60 years down the road, where your phone is just going to be ringing with bad news. And for people who have been through this experience before, you know that in these moments, you almost feel like you've been caring about the wrong things. All the little things about, this part of my business isn't working correctly and this software was blocking me from doing this thing and I got my ad account blocked on Facebook and it's just so annoying. Like all of that, just immediately, you recognize that you were caring about the wrong things. All right, and so why are we doing this process? Why are we thinking about this? Well, it's because it allows you to appreciate everything that isn't going wrong in your life right now. Everything that you have to actually be grateful for, which is a lot if you really just sit and think about it. And thinking and accessing that gratitude, I believe, gives you access to your best self in these moments. Right? And in almost every moment. Just recognizing that whatever, you've been watching this video for, 20 minutes or something at this point. If you've had this time to set aside to watch this video, I immediately know that you are more privileged than at least 1 billion people in this world, right? You have the kind of life that at least 1 billion people in the world would consider their prayers answered if they could just trade places with you. Right? Like just reflect on that for a second. So there are many things for you to be grateful for. And that's not to say that you don't have problems. That's not to say that your life isn't difficult. But we all know people who have all of the material and social conditions satisfied for them to hypothetically be happy, but they're not. And we also know people who have almost nothing in what looks like horrible states of deprivation, without any of the material and social conditions that we would think are prerequisites for happiness, and we can look at them and they are deeply happy. And the trick there, if you want to call it a trick, is gratitude. It's accessing gratitude in every present moment, which is an ability that you can train. So let's bring this back to mindfulness quickly and look at how can we train ourselves to be in the present moment, to be completely here, have that focus, right? And also have that presence for the people that we love and the people that we care about, right? So I started in 2021 with guided meditations. Okay, so you can just search up guided mindfulness meditations on YouTube if you want free ones, right? I would recommend starting with the waking up introductory course, right? So that's waking up, and then you can type in introductory course day 1, right? And I think day 1 to 5 is free on YouTube. Do that, just do it daily, right? So that is Waking Up is actually an app by Sam Harris. Okay, so I used this app for guided meditations personally. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I used that, and that's what I started with, and that's what I continue to use actually, and I've found that that really works, right? Unless you're an expert, you do want to be doing guided meditations. So start with that. There are a couple of other apps. I think like Medito is one of them, and Calm is another one. There's a couple of them, right? Pick one, do guided meditations. Start with that, just do it daily, right? Do a couple of minutes of mindfulness every day. You will suck at it at the start. You will genuinely suck at it, and you'll sit there and you'll think, what am I doing? This is supposed to be productive for me, but I don't feel like it's doing anything. That's normal, okay? But everybody needs to start there for you to slowly train up your ability to notice how bad you actually are at being in the present moment and focusing, right? For you to slowly build up those repetitions that I talked about of you coming back to your focus, coming back to the present, coming back to thinking, or rather coming back to focusing on your breath as opposed to thinking and being trapped in thoughts, etc. Right? So start with some guided meditations. That is what helped me. And if not, that's pretty much, honestly, that is it. That's what you need to do, right? There's not a whole bunch of action steps. This is not a complicated thing, right? You just need to start building the skill of mindfulness by doing guided meditations, right? So if you've enjoyed this, there's a lot of these kind of conversations going on in my community, the Winner's Circle, which is the first link in the description. It's a community full of men who are committed to fulfilling their potential, right? And that means being focused, being productive, right? And actually being able to enjoy life and find fulfillment there. So if you're interested in actually being in a community of guys that are like that and that are like-minded like you, consider joining the community. And if not, I will see you guys in the next video. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you then. Peace.